My mother was not a sentimental woman. She did not keep photographs on the mantel or china in a hutch she never opened. When my father died, she sold his tools inside the week, donated his winter coats, and moved on, with the quiet efficiency of someone who had made peace with impermanence long before the rest of us had even understood the problem. She lived alone in that house, outside of Selkirk, for 31 years after he passed, and never once asked me to visit more than I wanted to. That was her way. She had no use for burden. She kept one thing she never explained. It was a flat metal disc, roughly the size of a pocket watch but thicker, heavier than it had any right to be. It lived in a tobacco tin on the top shelf of the attic, inside a fold of flannel cloth that had once been someone's handkerchief. She told me about it exactly once, when I was perhaps 11 or 12, and had found the tin while looking for something else. She took it from me without alarm, held it for a moment in her open palm, and then placed it back in the cloth with a care she showed nothing else. "Don't lose this," she said. That was all. Not what it was, not where it had come from. Just, don't lose it. She died in February. I drove up in March, after the roads cleared, to sort through what remained. There was not much. She had been thorough in her way over the years. The books already given to the library, the furniture already spoken for among neighbors. The attic held boxes of survey maps from my own working years that I had stored there in retirement, 2 broken chairs and the tin. I brought it down to the kitchen and set it on the table. I am 71 years old. I spent 38 years as a land surveyor for the provincial government, 40-hour weeks on frozen ground, reading instruments, cording distances, writing the measurements of the world into ledgers that no one outside the office would ever read. I am not a man given to imagination or drama. My wife will tell you the same. The work was precise and repetitive, and I was good at it, and that was enough. I came home every night, ate dinner, read until 10, slept. That was the architecture of my life, and I did not quarrel with it. I say this so you understand that what happened next was not something I expected, invited, or could have manufactured. I opened the tin. The cloth was there, and inside it the disc. I lifted it into the morning light from the window above the sink. A gray March light, flat and thin, the kind that shows everything. The metal was dark, somewhere between iron and bronze, but it had none of the oxidation you would expect of something stored in a Manitoba attic for 60 years. No rust, no verdigris, no tarnish at all. The surface was smooth except for a series of lines cut into the face, concentric rings, and between them a pattern of shorter marks that ran at angles. I could not quite resolve into a known symbol, though they resolved into something, like the first word of a sentence you cannot yet read. I turned it over. The back was plain. I set it on the table and looked at it for a while. Then I put the kettle on, because that is what I do when I don't know what else to do. And I sat back down and looked at it again. The lines were not glowing. I want to be precise about that. In the gray kitchen light, nothing was glowing. But the lines were doing something that I didn't have a word for, catching the light in a way that the rest of the surface wasn't. As though they were a different material entirely. As though the grooves had been filled with something that waited. Pressed my thumb into the center of the disc. It was a reflex, the same way you press a bruise. I don't know why I did it. My thumb found the smallest of the concentric rings, the innermost one, where all the angled marks converged, and I pressed. The disc warmed. Not the slow warming of metal held in a palm. Immediate, as though it had been waiting at a temperature just below detectable, and finally, with permission, allowed itself to be felt. The kettle began to rattle on the burner, and I barely heard it because the lines on the face of the disc, changing, not glowing, not yet but deepening, the light in them going from caught to contained, filling from the center outward the way water fills carved channels in stone. Then the gold came, deep, clean, warm gold, not like a lamp, not like fire, but like the color of something old and patient that has been waiting in the dark for 60 years, and has now decided the dark is over. The lines lit from the center of the disc to its outer edge in a single slow pulse, and then held. The disc was warm in my hand. The kitchen was ordinary around me. The window, the kettle, the worn linoleum, the chair where my mother had eaten 1,000 meals alone. And then I heard it. Not in the room. That is the only way I know how to say it. Not a sound that moved through the air. A sound that arrived inside the bone at the base of my skull. as clear as a tuning fork struck against a table, two words that were also somehow a single sentence and a history and a weight. Holder of the unbroken chain. I did not drop the disc. My hand closed around it instead, and I sat in my mother's kitchen, and I did not move for a long time. I have thought about those four words every day since. I have turned them over the way you turn a survey measurement you can't reconcile. Looking, the error. Looking for the place where the instrument slipped, or the notation went wrong. There is no error. The disc is real. It is sitting in the inner pocket of my coat right now, and I can feel its warmth through the fabric, faint and constant, the way a coal holds heat long after the fire has gone out. My mother knew. I am certain of that now. The care with which she folded the cloth, particular quiet she showed it. Not reverence exactly, but something close. The one instruction she gave me, the only instruction, was not preserve this or treasure this, but simply don't lose it. As though the keeping was the whole of the obligation, as though she had known that it was not her place to open it, that opening was not hers to do, and her only task was to carry it forward to the one it was waiting for. She never told me because she didn't know what to tell. She only knew to hold on. I have been a surveyor. I have spent my working life measuring distances between fixed points, recording where one thing ends and another begins. I understand something about chains. The surveyor's chain, 66 feet of iron links, the unit by which the land was once measured and divided and written into record. A chain is only useful if it is unbroken. One missing link and the measurement fails. The whole record collapses back into approximation. I do not know how long this one ran before me. I do not know my mother's name beyond the name. I do not know who carried this before her or before that, or in what land, in what century, through what loss. The disc does not tell me. It only told me what I am. But I know this. 60 years it slept in a tin on a shelf in a house in Manitoba, while the world went about its business, and everyone who might have noticed it grew, old and died. It waited without complaint. It did not corrode. It did not dim. It held the weight of whatever it carries across, whatever distance it has already traveled. And it asked nothing of anyone except the one thing my mother managed to give it. Not to be lost. I finished my tea. I folded the flannel cloth, placed it in my coat pocket, and left the attic empty. The drive back to Winnipeg takes 2 hours on a clear day. I drove the speed limit. The disc was warm against my ribs the entire way. By the time I reached the city limits, the light had come back into the sky. Not much, just enough to see by. That particular late winter light that is not warm yet, but is at least honest about the fact that it intends to return. I don't know what comes next. I don't know what a chain like this requires of the man who holds it. I only know that 60 years is a long time to wait, and that something patient enough to wait that long deserves, at the very least, someone who will not lose it. I don't intend to.